are listening to Lighthearted, the official podcast of the United States Lighthouse Society. My name is Jeremy D'Entremont. Welcome. Today is September 8th, 2024, and this is episode 294 of Lighthearted. In a minute, we are going to listen to a conversation with Christian Tabor, author of a new book and CEO of a nonprofit organization. Also, he happens to be 17 years old. I'm recording this on September 4th. By the time you're hearing this, we will have completed our virtual telethon on September 7th. As I record this, I don't know who the winner is for our 2024 Lighthouse Dance-Off, but I want to thank all the finalists and everyone who entered. The entries showed a lot of spirit and creativity. Now I'm going to get right into the introduction of today's guest. Christian Tabor is a 17-year-old high school student and athlete who lives in upstate New York. Christian is a speaker, author, and entrepreneur. As the founder and CEO of NavigatorTeen, Christian has always embraced a simple yet powerful philosophy. Anything is possible. One of his many passions is to empower teenagers to create their own path to success here and now, and ultimately to wherever their road takes them. His new book is called Be Your Own Navigator, a Success Guide for Teens by a Teen. Christian says that the book, quote, is not a lecture from your parents or a cryptic survival manual. It is a compass guiding you through proven skills that can be used to juggle the chaos of daily life, excel in school or sports, and everything in between. Welcome aboard. Let's write your success story, unquote. And by the way, Christian has also written for the U.S. Lighthouse Society's journal, The Keeper's Log, and for our online news blog. Let's listen to my conversation with Christian Tabor now. I'm speaking today with Christian Tabor, author and fellow Lighthouse nut. Thank you so much for doing this today, Christian.
Thank you for having me, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you being here. It's a lot of fun. I have your book right next to me here. I'm very impressed by all of it. So I'm going to start with a question that is probably pretty obvious, and I bet you've been hearing this question a lot recently, but how did you become so interested in lighthouses?
Yeah, so this is a bit of a crazy story. I've been going down to Hilton Head Island, South Carolina since I was 2 years old. Absolutely love it there. I'm from New York. Long drive down, but such an amazing place. And for the longest time, we had been going to the Harbortown Lighthouse, which is very notable on the island, that candy-striped lighthouse everybody loves, and I love it too. It is considered faux. But when I was probably 11 or 12 years old, I was browsing in a shop, and I bought a postcard with Harbortown on it. And it was in a set of pictures, and it said Low Country Lighthouses. And there were some that I recognized, like there was Hague Point from Defusky and Bloody Point. But there was one that I didn't recognize, and it was this kind of skeleton tower in the woods. And I looked at the back of the postcard when I got home, and it said Leamington Lighthouse, Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Been going there forever, had never heard of this lighthouse. All I knew about was Harbortown. So I said to my dad, I said, hey, there's another lighthouse here in Hilton Head. Let's go find it. There was nothing about this place. It was very, very difficult to find, not very popular, tucked in the woods inside of a gated community. So we found the coordinates on the Wikipedia page. That's how difficult it was to find this thing. It took us to a gated community, and my dad was like, are you sure we're supposed to be able to get in here? Like, this is a pretty serious security gate. So I said, just tell them we're looking for the lighthouse. And they said, of course, come on in. And it was a little bit of a scary moment, but we made it through. And after a little bit of driving, we found it tucked back in the woods, trees with Spanish moss draped over it, kind of hiding it. And I was instantly hooked. Here, we've been here for so long, and I've just discovered this tower that's been hiding in the woods forever. And I was totally stunned. It was so amazing. A little bit rough shape, but so, so amazing. And when I got back to Harbortown not too long after, I had a new passion for lighthouses. Mm-hmm. And when I was there, I saw the Lighthouse Passport, and I picked it up that day. And my first stamp, I believe, was 2018. So right there at Harbortown. So really, both lighthouses on Hilton Head kind of started this journey for me, and I've been a lighthouse fan ever since.
Oh, that's a great story. And I keep telling people the Lighthouse Passport, the whole idea that, of course, it's something the U.S. Lighthouse Society does, and it's a work of genius. It's
Oh, it's
really brought a
spectacular.
lot of brought a lot of people into the
And
fold.
that's how
Yeah.
I became a member. Is I saw that inside of the passport and I thought, hey, this is really cool. There's a whole community of people who may have had similar experiences and have some sort of connection, and it's really been amazing. I love going to get my stamps every year.
Yeah.
It's so much
Yeah.
fun.
That's great. Yeah. And just for anybody listening who isn't familiar with it, again, the Harbor Town, so-called Harbor Town Lighthouse, part of a little community there, Harbor Town at Hilton Head, at a marina there. It is a very iconic lighthouse, but it is, as you said, a faux. It's FAUX lighthouse. I mean, a nice way of saying fake, but still, it's a tourist attraction. It's got beautiful exhibits inside. It's got a great gift shop inside, and we have a mutual friend in Nadia, the manager there, who's been on the podcast before too. So it's a great place, and people, anybody into lighthouses, don't pass it up because it's a faux lighthouse. They need to go there.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I know it's known far and wide that it is not an official lighthouse, but to me, it's something that kind of helped start this journey and got me to the Lighthouse Society. And even though it is not considered real, it is still so important to the Hilton Head area because it brings awareness to what the historical importance of lighthouses and the whole museum, all about maritime history and all about these aids to navigation. It's probably inspired a lot more people than me. And they're doing a great job there. And Nadia's run the place so wonderfully. The shops are so much fun on the top and the bottom. So
Yeah,
such a great place.
that's right. That's two shops, yeah, two good shops on the top and bottom. So I'm glad we got to say that. And also the range light you mentioned,
Yes,
is has been featured on the podcast also. It's my understanding it's right on the edge of a golf course kind of as well.
it is. It's off of a hole on the Arthur Hills golf course. And that was before the golf course came along, there was a military camp there. And way before that, there was the story of the Blue Lady at that lighthouse. So it's been wrapped in quite a bit of lore. And since my first visit, it's become a lot more popular. They have a website up. It's been restored, I believe, around 2019, if that's correct. And you can get your passport stamped there now, which was not a thing when I came there for the first time. So
Mm-hmm.
the lore behind it of the lighthouse keeper and its place in military history and now the setting for a golf course has started to gain it a little more fame that it deserves. Really, it's really such a peaceful place back there. So
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Yeah. They all have their stories to tell, that's for sure. Some of
Mm-hmm.
these lighthouses have many stories to tell. So you mentioned getting your first stamp in 2018, right? Were you like 12 at that time? Is that about right?
Yeah, I was probably 11 or 12
Yeah.
around then. Yeah, so that kind of segues me into the journey of this book, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So
Can I interrupt you for a second there?
yeah, go
Before
for it.
you wrote the book, you actually you did like an essay on the U.S. Lighthouse Society news blog. I believe
Yes,
you worked with the late Candace Clifford, my predecessor as a historian for the society,
yes.
on that, right? So how did that come about?
So that's actually where my lighthouse story and my book story kind of intersect.
Oh, okay.
So I got my lighthouse passport and I became a member. And somebody noticed that it was a 12-year-old kid. And I was contacted via my dad's email, and somebody said, "That's an awfully young age to be interested in lighthouses. This is kind of notable. We have a 12-year-old member now. Would you be interested in doing something for the society to kind of help bring awareness for younger kids?" And I said, "Sure, I like to write. Do you want me to write something?" And I was told, "Yeah, we'd love to post it on the blog." So when I was 12, I wrote Guiding Lights, a story of America's lighthouses. And I talked about kind of how Leamington has, or the Hilton Head Rear Range officially, has withstood the test of time. And some lighthouses have not, but talking about the importance of the ones that we do have in history. And that story of that article kind of set me off on a journey. And as this book came to completion, the lighthouse story and the writing story intersected again. And that's how we got the final product.
Well, obviously, I want to talk a lot more about the book, but also more recently, you had an article in the Keeper's Log, right? The U.S. Lighthouse Society
I
Quarterly
did.
Journal.
So that was so incredible. I was so honored to be featured in that. Those lighthouses, the Fairhaven Range Lights here in New York, off of Little Sodas Bay. My grandparents have had a cottage on that bay for so long. And every summer I go up there. I've been going up there forever. It was only a couple of years ago that I found out through the Lighthouse Society archives, actually, about the Fairhaven Range Lights. Long gone. And I became inspired to write about it. And that was before this book was done. This book was just in its first couple drafts at that point. And the Fairhaven range lights really caught my attention because they're not very well known. Mm-hmm. Two very small light stations with a keeper's house, actually not too far from my grandparents' cottage. And that's something that still stands today, even though the lighthouses are gone. And I found that story very interesting. And I was so happy to work with Marie Vincent to put that together. And it was such a great experience.
Yeah, that's great. I hope we'll be seeing a lot more articles from you in the Keeper's Log. One, it strikes me just reading the thing you did when you were 12 years old. It's obvious, even then you were an excellent writer, and that's.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, absolutely. So about the book, how you kind of told the story, but what made you decide to write the book, which is, it's not about lighthouses, but it kind of incorporates the idea of lighthouses in many ways.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the book, as I mentioned before, the book story and the lighthouse story they start together and then they separate a little bit and then they cross paths again. So in 2019, I went to a leadership conference in Pennsylvania with my dad. And the conference was not my favorite experience in the world, but on the way back, my dad was about to put in a music CD in his car. And he turned on the player, and it turns out he had left in an audio CD. It was a personal development seminar, which, of course, every middle school student absolutely loves, right? So he said, actually, hold on a second. Maybe you'll like this. And I did. It was a man by the name of Jim Rohn. And he did professional development, personal development seminars, mainly targeted towards adults, talking about goal setting, time management, communication, all these important life skills. And for some reason, I absolutely loved it. I was going into middle school and I thought, you know what, this stuff may be for adults, but these skills are going to help me so much in all this uncharted territory. So I became obsessed with his seminars, listened to as many as I could get my hands on. I started reading a ton of books by a ton of different authors and trying things out and seeing what kind of skills worked for me and what maybe didn't. And the time came when my parents started to kind of joke around a little bit like, hey, Christian, these skills seem to be working for you. Maybe you should write a book about some of the stuff you've learned. And I just looked at them and I'd go, that's funny. And then one day we were all standing in the kitchen and my parents mentioned it one more time. And as usual, I laughed and then I stopped and I was like, wait a minute, you're being serious. You actually want me to write a book? And they said, yeah. So I always joke, that's the one time I listened to my parents is when they told me to write a book. So I got started on that. And that was the fall of my 9th grade year. I'm a rising senior right now. And that was a little bit crazy. It was COVID era. So I went back to school. We're all wearing masks. Nobody's sitting next to each other. So during lunch, I sat at a distanced table. And what my friends had no idea is that those 42 minutes I was spending on my phone every day, I was actually writing a book. I wrote the whole thing on my iPhone 8, which did not work super wonderfully in the cafeteria made of cinder block, but it worked. And I finished that first draft and it wasn't great. And I revised and revised and revised. And I had many gracious editors, including my mom, who eventually got tired of reading it, but I appreciated all the patience. And then towards the end, it always had a nautical theme because that's something that's always meant so much to me. But towards the end, I had just written that article about the Fairhaven range lights, and Leamington and Harbortown were on the brain. And I realized that the entire time, this was really a lighthouse story because lighthouses since Leamington had become such an important part of my life, whether it's my email profile picture, my phone background, or my immense collection of lighthouses in my room and my passion for the lighthouses on Hilton Head. I knew that it was something I had to include at the end of the book. Mm-hmm. And what I realized was that all these life skills that I've written about, and not perfect at any of them, I've screwed up plenty. And that's part of the fun
part
of
being
book.
Human is what it is.
Absolutely. And that's what's such a major part of this book too, is that it's not all about, hey, here's what I did right. It's, whoops, I've done some stuff wrong. Don't do the same thing. And I realized these life skills have been like my lighthouse. They can be applied to anything, applied to anybody, in any situation. It's something that you can turn to no matter what the waters are like. If the waters are rough, you have that lighthouse to follow back and start over. Or if you're doing really well, there's going to be another lighthouse waiting for you at the end of your journey. So that really came into the book. And the cover of the book, as well as the logo of my life skills and lifestyle company, NavigatorTeen, is the Fairhaven Front Range Light.
Yep.
In honor of that story. And the concept of a lighthouse has become such a key part of everything I've been doing, and bringing awareness to both the physical concept and their historical significance, but also the symbolic concepts in daily life.
Yeah, well, the lighthouse symbolism is kind of unusual for a book like this. But how else would you say? What makes your book different from other self-help books?
Yes, so really, the number one thing is it's written from an equal. I always tell people it's like you're talking to me at lunch or we're chatting in the hallway, because it's not a very wordy book. It's not a very long book, and it's formatted a little bit differently too. It's very atypical in the sense that I'm talking about things I've done right and things I've done wrong. It's not I have 40 years of experience as a businessman, and here's what I've learned. It's, hey, I'm a 17-year-old kid, and here's what I found out surviving high school and middle school. But what I really talk about is doing more than surviving, because everybody talks about surviving the teenage years, surviving. But in reality, you can do the same thing as an adult can in this time when it comes to excelling. You have so many opportunities to succeed, whether it's in your academics or your athletics, or if you want to start a business, or if you want to do anything, you can do it right now. And I knew that this book had to be something inspiring, a little bit of optimism, a little bit of motivation for teens to realize, hey, maybe I can do more than just get by every day and go home and sit on the couch. Maybe I can get out and succeed and be an example for others and help others do the same thing. And that's really where the uniqueness of this comes in. And during my writing journey, this book changed so much because of that. My original draft and the final draft look nothing alike because of all the things I learned in the 2.5 years in between, which that was a long time. But It was so important to gain that experience. And I'm still learning, and I'm never going to stop learning.
Well, I feel the same way. I'm a little bit older than you, like several decades, and I don't feel like I've stopped learning. And every day I learn something new about life and about all kinds of things. So, but as you're talking about people surviving high school years, that was kind of my experience. Like I'm just got to get through this. I really wish there was something like that for me when I was that age. I think I would have latched onto it. I would have gotten a lot from it, I think. What would you say? And I know there's a lot of lessons in the book and so forth, but what would you say was your prime objective?
Exactly like you said about the teenage survival is a mindset that a lot of people grasp. And I'm not saying it's an unimportant mindset. It's still, and even in my view of things, it's still very important. I always wanted to add a little bit of extra to it though. And yes, survive the day, but also seize the day. And that's something that I'm really on a mission to do. Teens, it's no secret, are faced with tons of distractions and negativity on a daily basis. Whether you turn on the news and you're like, oh, what is going on in this world? Or you're scrolling through social media and thinking, what is all this trash I'm looking at? And sometimes people don't realize that it is a lot of trash.
Yep.
And letting that consciously or even just subconsciously, soak into your brain, and letting that suck away all your time and discourage you from doing things. It's happening all too much, and I've seen it way too much. And I really want to do whatever I can to fight that. I want people to get out there and take all these opportunities that are available now, because you can not only have an amazing time as a teenager, but also start building your future right now and get a head start in the game. So that's really what I'm hoping to do.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And, I'm just thinking about how not just teens, but all of us need more positivity in our lives these days. It's a lot of negativity going around.
Oh, plenty.
Yeah. And, I don't want to get too heavily into talking about social media, but I agree that it can be, it can have positive aspects, but there's a lot of,
absolutely.
A lot of negative. Mm-hmm.
That's something that I'm trying to do with this business as well. Part of NavigatorTeen is I run social media pages with inspirational quotes that go out several times a week. Just hopefully in somebody scrolling, they'll come across something like that. Maybe it can give them a quick smile or brighten up their day, whatever I can do.
That's great. That's so great to hear you say that. So, it's a tool. It's like anything else. You can use a hammer, to do good or bad. Social media is a tool that can do a lot of good and a lot of bad, but to use it positively is a wonderful thing. One of the things you talk about in the book is people's ideas of success, which can have many different definitions for different people. For a lot of people, success is about money and material success. How do you define success?
Well, I have big dreams of becoming a successful businessman. And I look up to so many business leaders of the past and the present. And what I really love is when those leaders share their stories and it has some sort of impact on me. Between whether it's reading their books or talking to somebody like that in person, I'm always so inspired by everything from here's what I did right, maybe you can follow in these footsteps, to here's what I screwed up, don't do that. And I hope that someday I can, and even now, what I'm trying to do as a teenager is be there for people who want answers. I'm never going to have all the answers, but hopefully I'll have learned a thing or two that somebody else finds valuable and will use it to shape their life and become a better person and pass it on and help those people become better. So what I really hope to do is just be a positive influence on people. And that, I feel that is success, is being able to take your life experiences and use them to better others. And I hope that I'm able to do that forever.
Sounds good to me. Do you ever think about the fact that you are being a lighthouse in the world? Yes.
That's exactly what I'm hoping to do. And I even talked about that very briefly in the book, is that I hope that these skills and that the book and maybe even me, I don't know if I live up to that statement, but being a lighthouse. And one thing that I talk about, one of my presentations that I give in my live seminars is called Be a Beacon to Victory. And it's printed on some of my merchandise as well. That concept of be an inspiration, be a lighthouse, help guide other people in the right direction. And that's so important as part of that symbolism.
People can be lighthouses in small ways and big ways. It might just take a simple word of kindness or encouragement at the right time. That's being a lighthouse. It doesn't require necessarily a huge effort or something. It's just many, many ways we can be lighthouses in our lives. So I just want to pick up on something you were saying earlier about how we were talking about how difficult teen years can be. And you said while we're talking, and you also say in the book, that the teen years are also full of opportunities to achieve greatness. Can you maybe expand a little bit on that? Because I think that's, for a lot of teens, that's probably far from their minds. Again, how do I get through the next day? But can you expand on how can people achieve greatness in their high school years?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be totally honest with you. There's plenty of days when I wake up and it's raining outside and I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to school today. It happens to everybody and plenty of times. But I also feel like, you know what, you have to go to school anyway. You might as well make the best of it and do the best you can. And that's always my attitude. I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I have very high standards for myself. And sometimes I set things a little too high and I'll overwork myself. But I always feel like if I am going to be doing something, I might as well give it 110%. So I want to do the best I can in school. I am a big time golfer. I want to do the best I can on my golf team. I'm definitely no good at basketball, but if I were a basketball player, I would also want to do the best I can on the basketball team. And even if somebody wants to start a business of some sort, like I found an opportunity in something that I love. And I decided that I want to do something with it, just not let it sit in my head as a dream anymore. Let's make it happen. And no matter what that dream is, I think all teens have it deep down in there. They can get out there and make it happen starting right now. So like I mentioned before, not just surviving the day, but seizing the day, getting out there and meeting people, learning from people, learning from yourself, and achieving dreams and impacting others.
Yeah. just making me think about how, I've kind of it's bringing back, not that I necessarily want to be brought back to my teen years and think too much about that, but I think, there's a lot of pressures, as you said, being that age. And these days, more than ever, I think you have more pressures than I did when I was that age. And there were plenty then. But, societal pressures and social media being a big aspect of it. And I could go on. There's a lot of things. But I think it's the true nature of all of us is to be joyful and to explore the things we love and the talents we have and everything. A lot of that tends to get kind of buried, I think, during the teen years. So you're talking about just bringing that more to the surface, I think.
Unleash that potential.
Yeah. So I couldn't agree more with you. So you are the founder and CEO of NavigatorTeen. Can you explain what that is?
Yes. So NavigatorTeen is a life skills plus lifestyle company. So a few different things going on with NavigatorTeen. At the core of it is, of course, the book, Be Your Own Navigator, a success guide for teens by a teen. And that establishes 9 chapters of life skills, goal setting, time management, influences, communication and public speaking, habits and routines, money management, personal development, and life philosophy, which are big topics, but presented in a way that is easy to digest. And the book itself is even laid out into small sections. So you can always go back if you're wondering about something or you're struggling with something, you can always go back and find it. So that's really the core of the entire brand. NavigatorTeen Lifestyle is a lifestyle brand inspired by lighthouses, specifically the Fairhaven Front Range Light. And it's the logo for the company is a compass with the lighthouse in the center. And all of our products have some sort of motivational aspect to them. So as I mentioned, Be a Beacon to Victory is something that's on plenty of products that I have in my shop. All very nautical themed, inspirational. So really a feel-good brand, something that you might put on or a coffee cup you might drink from in the morning and say, you know what, I'm going to rock this day. And then I also have the social media networks, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, where I post inspirational quotes and sometimes little segments from my book a few times a week. Just you happen to be scrolling through, and if it brightens up your day, that would be amazing. And then I also do seminars and speaking events that include these life skills and carry on that nautical theme.
Yeah, I want to ask you more about that, but I was going to ask you as far as the clothing and things you sell. Do you have any baseball caps with positive words on them?
I have one with a lighthouse on it, but there are plenty more to come. I was actually designing a lot of products yesterday, and the designs for the core of the brand, the book cover and the logo, my math teacher from a couple of years ago, Tracy Tyrrell, did an absolutely amazing job taking my chicken scratch on a board and turning it into this beautiful illustration. So a big shout out to her for all of her amazing help. And it's really been amazing kind of learning how to do these things. I'm not a graphic designer, but using all these wonderful illustrations and combining them with positive messages is my goal.
Definitely. Yeah. I just had to ask about the baseball cap because I need at least one for my baseball cap museum, which you can't see, but it's all around me in my little study here. Got like 70 baseball caps on the wall.
I'm with you. Yep. Same here.
So you mentioned your presentations. What kind of presentation do you do? Do you do it for local schools, or what sort of things do you do?
Yes. So my main presentation called Be a Beacon to Victory is kind of a summary of all of these skills. It can range from like a half an hour to an hour, depending on what a school needs. And I'll do that to schools and community organizations of varying sizes. And then this summer, I partnered with a local human development PhD, and we developed a curriculum, a life skills curriculum, very interactive and lighthearted, no podcast, but lighthearted and fun, but still very practical. So that is being developed as a course. And right now we have it developed as a seminar called the NavigatorTeen Life Skills Summit, which we're hoping to offer to as many schools as possible, in person in my area or virtual anywhere else. So I'm hoping to expand that offering very soon.
I just love this. I just think this is all fantastic.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, do you plan? I know you're going in a certain direction here, but I don't think you're going to forget about lighthouses. I'm wondering if
Absolutely.
right. I wonder if you have any plans to do any more research and writing specifically about lighthouses.
It's a definite possibility. If a lighthouse comes along like Leamington and Fairhaven has and inspired articles, I'd love to do some more for the Keeper's Log. I just visited Hunting Island for the first time, which that lighthouse is incredible. It's close for renovations right now. So
Hmm.
maybe something like that coming up. That lighthouse hit me just like those other two did. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely possible.
Well, anything I can do to help along those lines, I'd love to see you do more of
Thanks.
that. And if you don't mind me asking, any plans for college or plans after your senior year coming up?
Yes. So business has been my interest for a very long time. So
Hmm.
going to college for a bachelor's in business administration, followed by an MBA. Not exactly sure what my business path is going to look like, but
Hmm.
I'm sure I'll keep lighthouses in mind the entire time. And I'd love to grow NavigatorTeen. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, any business college will be extremely lucky to have you as a student for sure.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
So I have one more question for you, and this one's for bonus points. Okay. That question is, what can people learn from lighthouses?
Really, that they're resilient, I think, is something that matters to me so much in the symbolism. I talked about how these skills are a lighthouse and how they're foundational pieces. They don't really change. And the resilience of lighthouses, I think, is the number one. They're there in storms, they're there on sunny days. I mean, talk about Harbor Town has fared its fair share of hurricanes, and Leamington has fared even more. And you even go to lighthouses like Morris Island in South Carolina. It's in the middle of the water. It
Yeah.
is still standing. And even though all the land has eroded around it, it's still there. And talking about the fact that these are historic relics that have stayed here for so long and have become such symbols for such a long period of time, I really think that resilience is the best way to describe a lighthouse.
I like it. And they symbolize a lot of things obviously for people, but resilience is right up there. One thing I thought of when you mentioned Morris Island is the fact that, yeah, it's a tribute to the lighthouse and the people who built it, that it's still standing now that it was built, as you said, built on land and now it's surrounded by water. But it's also a tribute to the people who've worked to save it,
Mhm.
all the work that's gone into saving it. So it takes a lot of people to accomplish big things. So that's proof of that. It's
And
the lighthouse
e-
itself plus the people. Yeah.
exactly. And the same thing with any journey, really. I mean, it's no journey is really alone. It's a mix of different people and different experiences, and that's exactly it. Everybody working together as a team to make it happen, and that's
Hmm.
something that we've seen with so many lighthouses.
That's a perfect way to wrap this up for now, I think, Christian. This is fantastic. I love talking with you. I'm so impressed by everything you've done. I look forward to seeing a lot more that you'll be doing in the coming years. I'm sure we'll all be hearing a lot from you. And let's stay in touch. And I hope to have you on the podcast again. Maybe there's other ways we can work together going forward too. So thank you so much
Excellent.
for doing this. Thanks for your time today, Christian.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
I was really impressed by Christian Tabor, and I'd be impressed regardless of his age. Age is just a number, and Christian's work can serve as a lighthouse for all of us. Let me read a quote that Christian recently posted. Quote, "Nobody should expect complete success overnight, nor should we expect constant perfection. But what we can expect, however, is that each of us tries our very best, no matter where we stand right now, knowing each push is a push forward. Don't give up because results aren't instant. Small victories will add up. As long as you have the power to keep moving. Rock this week," unquote. And I think his advice certainly applies to those of us in the field of lighthouse preservation. Don't give up because the results aren't instant. Small victories do add up over time. Be sure to check out uslhs.org to learn more about all the things the U.S. Lighthouse Society does. Remember that all donations and memberships help to support this podcast. We will be back next week with a new episode. For now, to all our regular listeners and our new ones, thank you so much for listening, and keep a good light.